back to another episode of Inspiration Talks. I'm very excited about today's episode. I have a very special guest all the way from Australia. Vanja Beric is with us. She's a registered counselor. So in order to know how did she become a counselor, let's find out more about her. So before I delay, let's welcome Vanja. Hi, Vanja.
Hi, thank you so much for having me on.
First of all, thank you so much for being part of Inspiration Talks, Vanja. I really appreciate. So I would like to start our today's conversation with your first job. How was your first job?
So my first job, well, I kind of just fell into corporate world because once I finished high school, I didn't know what I was going to do. So I fell into the corporate world, and it was, thinking about it now, boring. It wasn't what I was passionate about, but at the time I didn't know what I wanted to do. So it was just, it was something I needed a job, and that was it.
Okay, so then how did you end up your career in counseling? Like, how did you shift your career in counseling?
So when in my early 20s, through everything that I've been through, I noticed, I noticed, thankfully, that I needed some help. So I went to seek a counsellor, and I went to therapy for a while, and I saw the changes and what it did for me, and what benefit it was, and it was something that I wanted to do for other people. So it took some time for me to actually take the step to do the formal education and things like that, but when I did, it was amazing, and now I have a private practice, and I also practice online.
So Vanja, is this what you wanted to pursue when you were a kid? Like, is this what you thought about it when you were a kid? Like, you wanted to be a counselor?
No, we didn't even have counseling when where I was from. We're very much, I'm sure that many people can resonate with this. We're very much a nation of, we don't talk about our problems, that therapy sort of, it doesn't really exist, can't possibly help me. So no, not at all. I certainly always had an interest in terms of the psychological side, the brain and things like that, especially when I started counseling, when I started reading books through self-improvement and psychology and things like that. I always had that interest, but I guess I never believed that I could. I never had the confidence and the belief that I could do it. So it was just something that I was interested in, but that's as far as.
Okay, so how did you gain confidence? Like, usually many people doesn't have lots of confidence.
So the way I gained belief that I could do it, it was just working through, because I noticed that it wasn't, when I was thinking about it, I wasn't thinking I can't do it. There was 100 other reasons of, because by this time, it wasn't when I came straight out of high school. So, I'm too old for this. I am too busy for this. I'm too something for this. So it was all these reasons. There was, 100 other reasons, but I am too scared to do it. That never came up. So, and, thinking now, all right, so I've been through therapy. I know how this works. So let's try and work it out. What's going through it? What's through it? And okay, so let's deal with, this excuse, and let's deal with this excuse. And when the deeper I started digging, the deeper, and the more I unraveled, I finally found my why. And I was too scared. I didn't think that I could handle the work. I didn't think I could handle the, the heaviness of a degree and a master's. So I didn't, and then so when I worked through that was then, it was just taking a step, and it was, which I love to work with people and focus on, is just one step at a time. So it wasn't even about me finishing the degree. It was just about me doing that one subject. Let me just see that. And if it doesn't work out, I can always quit. So it was always kind of like, okay, just one more subject. And yeah.
From here, another question arises: how can people build their self-belief?
It's about creating that awareness of what it is that's going on inside. So as I said, when I did my studies, was 100 other reasons. And whatever it is that you are focusing on, thinking about what reasons are you giving that you can't do it.
Mm-hmm.
And then digging through and asking the question, why do I think I don't have time? Or why do I think I don't have time? How can I create time? And so it's about answering the surface level questions. But the more you dig deeper, the more you ask the why, then you're going to get down to the deeper level questions of And it usually, it may sound like, I don't believe that I can do it. I don't believe I'm smart enough. I don't believe I'm pretty enough. I don't believe that I have, enough support. And these are the things that actually hold us back. Because if we believe that we could do it, we would find a time. If we believe, do you know what I mean? Like, so we would find a time if we believe we could, but for some reason we believe we can't. And that's the key, finding out why do you think you can't, which sounds simple, but it's a lot of digging, it's a lot of exploring, and it sometimes takes time, but we can certainly get there.
Yeah, it usually takes time to build self-confidence and self-belief even. So I would like to know, is it something we never had?
That's a good question. It's when you look at a child or when you look at a toddler, they have the confidence, right? They have the confidence to say what they want. They have especially a small child, a baby, they're very free in expressing themselves. If they're not happy, a baby will let you know. So I think it's something that we've always had. It's just that society, parents, school, whatever it is that you grew up in, trauma conditions us and molds us that we need to be quiet, that we need to be a certain way, that we need to be, especially for us women, we need to be carers, we need to be, and so when we want to be something bigger than what others were expecting of us, all of a sudden it's a problem. So how do we work through that? So it's definitely something that we've always had, which is a good thing. It means that we don't have to start from scratch. It's just where they're going to start creating some self-awareness, removing some conditioning, removing some self-beliefs, working through whatever has happened in your life and healing it. And so it's about letting it shine. I feel like it's like a flicker in us, like a pilot, it has a flicker of light, and the more stuff we remove, the brighter it shines.
Okay, Vanya, how do you define success?
I would say that success ultimately to me is being me, my authentic self, and being as kind person as I possibly can be. However, in saying that, there's the ego side of me that may define success differently, and sometimes I'm going after what I know that success truly is to me, which is about being authentic. And sometimes success is, so I guess it changes from time to time, and it changes from the situation. But I certainly see it, because I may be wanting something that I think is success, which might be, money, status, or whatever it is. And then you get there and you're like, well, this doesn't feel as good as I thought it would be. Or, there's, I was told this was going to be better than it is. What's going on? It's, so I guess, yeah, so it's being authentic and being kind, but sometimes there's a battle in terms of the material world calling, pulling me in.
Okay, that's great to know. So here comes another question. If you were not in counseling, then what you would be doing?
I guess what I originally started to do when I first started in the workforce, which was accounting, I certainly would have hated it because I wasn't happy there. I would have been miserable doing it. But if I had a choice, I'd probably still be doing something. If I wasn't counseling, I'd still be doing something in terms of psychology and the mind. But yeah, I guess it would be something with the mind, or yeah.
Okay, it would be similar to this field only, right?
Yeah, so it may not be. It could be something like a detective, or something like that, because that's a very mind orientated, putting the pieces of puzzle together, profiling and things like that.
Yeah, that's interesting, right? I mean, like, being detective is also an interesting profession. So let's move towards, let's imagine, an inspiration. So Vanya, if you win a lottery ticket, for example, infinite amount of money, how would you spend that money?
I would, after a lot of trouble,
okay,
or during a lot of travel, I would certainly, obviously, the first thing that comes to my mind is thinking about how I can use this money to serve other people. Is there a so certainly I don't it's not something that I have come across, so I have to think about, but is there an area that I feel passionate about that I can use this tool to help fund it, to find the right people or whatever it is, that can bring this, whether it's global warming, whether it's poverty, whether it's, a refugee or mental health, how can I use this tool to serve others? Because it certainly doesn't serve me to keep it in my bank account.
So you will do this with your money. You will travel also along with this. So if you could live anywhere for one whole year, so what country will you choose?
It would definitely be Spain.
Okay.
There's something, I've never actually been, but there's something about Spain that I love. I love the language. I love the food. I love the idea of living on the Mediterranean. And I certainly, it would be something, it would force me to learn the language. It would force me to get immersed in that culture. And living in Australia, we're very isolated from the world. It takes a long time to travel anywhere. So I like this idea of being close to a lot,
Okay. So Spain can open doors to many other countries even. That's right.
Yeah.
So do you know Spanish?
I studied Spanish in high school, but I don't know. I will maybe be able to know enough to get by, but not enough to flaunt it.
Okay. So what about if you had time machine? Would you prefer to go in your past or in your future?
I would go way into the past and have conversations with, historical figures who I think changed my way of thinking and who changed the world's way of thinking. People like Nikola Tesla, people like, Albert Einstein, just Mother Teresa, just having a conversations with them about how they see life, how they see the world. And I think that would just be mind-blowing.
Yeah, that would be actually mind-blowing. I'm like, knowing about them, knowing their opinion about life would be great. Like, I never wondered about this, but this is something which I am impressed right now. Okay, so does anyone inspires you, Vanya?
I don't know whether one people throughout history inspired me through some of the work they did. So again, Mother Teresa, with her philanthropic work, Albert Einstein with the way, his view of the world. So those are the people that inspire me. Certainly people, in today's society, when you see someone like Angelina Jolie, who's obviously, she's very famous, but she's also likes to give back a lot. Those people certainly inspire me today, but I don't know if there's one person that I go, they are my idol and I love everything they do. The one thing that I'm always advocating for is that we're all human and we're all making mistakes. So I feel like if we put so much pressure on one person, we take away their humanity, because then we expect them to be this amazing, grandiose thing that we have, constructed in our head, and when it's not, we get a little bit disappointed.
I completely agree with the point which you said. Everyone can make mistake. No one is completely perfect, and I think it's good even to make mistakes. Like, if we don't make mistakes, how will we be able to learn something, right? So
absolutely.
So here comes another question. What are you most excited about your work right now? What are your current struggles and what are your future goals?
Well, what am I most excited about is my online course, because that is going to be amazing. I'm going to work. The idea is behind it is that I'm working with a group of people together, and it's really about creating a community and really figuring out how we can help each other, how I can serve others. And it's also my biggest challenge right now, because I've certainly never done it in this capacity before. I've never done it online. So it's, figuring out the technology side of it and things like that. So right now, it's my biggest thing that I'm excited about, but it's also my greatest pain. And my goals for the future is, I don't know. I really like to stay focused on the present, because if someone was to ask me 5 years ago to paint a life that I would want to be living in 5 years, it would be completely different to what I am doing now. And so, and I love what I'm doing now. So if I'm thinking too far into the future and I'm trying to construct what it would be like, I am, I'm only thinking with the little brain that I have right now. In 2 years' time, I'm going to, because constantly growing, new ideas are going to spark. So I like the future to be exciting and unknown.
Yeah, it is much better to, if you don't know what's going to happen in the future, it's much exciting. And even when we try something new, it's much, it's actually challenging, but also we learn something from it. And also it's exciting as well. So what is your course about? Can you give us short brief about your course, like which you're going to publish it soon?
It's all about building that self-belief. So creating, working through the past, working through our pains, working through whatever it is that we're feeling inside or we're feeling like that holds us back. And so it's really about building that self-belief. It will be online, and I will be with you there with you and doing a Q&A after to help you work through it. So it's really hands-on, and it's, there's a workbook, so we'll be able to work at your own pace, but also at the same time have my support. So I feel like this is, I can help out and serve a lot of people, in one go, and we can also really create that community, because as humans are all about connection. Whether it's, whether we're seeking connection from our partners, from our children, from neighbors, from parents, it's all about creating connection. And there's even a study that was done that shows that with people who feel like they have a connection or feel like they have a tribe or feel like they connect with someone, there is less, they show less signs of depression, they show less signs of suicide, or there's a fewer suicides. So for me, it's really important to create that community, because I know that's where I thrive. And I know, especially after COVID, we were lacking that because we weren't allowed to go out and things like that. So kind of getting back into that is important.
That's right, and all the best for it once again. So, Vanya, what advice would you like to give to my listeners?
One step at a time.
Yeah.
Focus on what you're doing right now.
Yeah.
Don't, while it's good to have goals for the future, don't create a whole, plan too far into the future, because then you're living in tomorrow, you're not living in right now, and you are trying to run away from your problems. So really focus on what you're doing right now, and one foot in front of the other. It's about focusing one thing at a time, as opposed to.
That's right. I will focus on one thing. It was great talking with you, Vanya. I really enjoyed talking with you. So here is a small gesture from me to you. You're most welcome. So anything which you would like to say in the end, Vanya?
Thank you so much for having me on. I have loved this conversation, and keep inspiring people. It's amazing what you're doing.
Thank you so much. What certifications does a coach have?
Well, they can have none. There is no regulations for a coach. So they can just say they're a coach. They can do like an online course that takes 2 hours, and they can get certification. So it's not really, so anybody can be a coach, and they can just say that they're a coach. That's the difference. Whereas a therapist actually has formal training.